So yeah, so we were saying earlier, we survived the wedding. Had a week off last week, and gonna be taking you on some video tours here, various places. And I've got a list of them here. Where did I put my list? I know I had it here somewhere. Hmm. Well, I will have to ad lib if I don't find my list. Where did I put that list? Um, hmm, that's crazy. It was just here. Of course, Carol can tell you if you've seen my desk, the terms just here is everything is. Oh, here it is under my keyboard. Everything is relative, right? So I've got the bunch from New York City, a little bit out here in Southern California. Drop over to Disneyland, visit to the '64 World's Fair, and I guess I'll get started with New York. So hang on here 1 second. Okay, hang on. Okay, I can see it, but you can't. So let me share screen. Share screen. Media player. Okay, share. So we're going to be going back to 1963. Let me see if I can hide this control down here. So this is a visit. We're going to be going out to Coney Island. This family went out and visited a number of places, and Coney Island's changed an awful lot. But those of us from New York, I think, may get a kick out of seeing Astro World and some of the odds and ends. So we first start at a zoo, and then we go see the beach. When we get to the shots of Astroland, look real quick because you'll see they bought a number of things from the '64 World's Fair. They bought trash cans, they bought luminaires, a variety of odds and ends. I think that's all gone now, but back in the 1973, it was still existent. This is the old boardwalk. Joey was mentioning in the chat to me how they ripped it all up and put in a polyurethane type, thing. It's not boards anymore. It's plastic slats. Not the same. But if you came from New York and you went out to, there's the steeplechase, the survivor of the '39 World's Fair. If you go out to New York and went under the boardwalk, you think about the song "The Drifters," I guess it was, and famous place, the boardwalk. We'll see most of this was shot in summer of '73. They went back out in late fall, and you can see how much colder and less appealing the beach looked back then. This is the Cyclone, one of the famous roller coasters they built out there. There were quite a few. Unfortunately, not all of them survived, but these big wooden rickety roller coasters that would give you a bone-jarring ride. There, look right there, a luminaire, bottom right. So that they survived from the fair. I don't know when they took them out at this point in this area, but we'll see some more as we come by. Astroland moon rocket. I always remember seeing that up there on the roof. And another luminaire, and another one should come into view. There they are. So Astroland was a really neat little amusement park. It had a sky ride you see here, the Wonder Wheel going around with both stationary and rocking cars. My brothers loved to do the rocking cars. I was not so crazy on them, but we usually ended up in them anyway. But Astroland was a great spot to go. Observation tower looks just like the one that was up at Expo '67. They had the same type of skyway out here at Pacific Ocean Park out in Santa Monica, California. I'm not sure who made this particular one. But part of the joy of New York, debris just lying there from past events and things. You can tell it's the '70s, bell-bottom pants. Everybody's just, the '70s fashions for sure. It's fun to crowd watch, isn't it? How many folks here had gone to Astroland? Anybody else besides me? Yeah, Carlos, I figured you would. Joey, you ever out there?
I grew up there.
Yeah, figured you would have been there a lot.
Yeah, I saw some things under the boardwalk that I can't even mention today.
Well, we got to hum the song and sing along together, right? So we've hopped over to New York Aquarium now, here in Coney Island. Still there today. It's been upgraded and more modernized, but things, we'll be taking a tour inside in just a moment. But if you're ever in New York at Coney Island, the aquarium is well recommended. And the famous Coney Island beach. Not the same without the sound of the seagulls.
I could do some seagull sounds for you if you want, Bill.
But we don't have to listen to them, but we also have to worry about them flying overhead, right?
Yeah.
Neil got nailed by a pigeon in Venice, and that's not fun when it happens. Beluga whale. You see, it's a fairly small aquarium. We've seen movies in past weeks of giant tanks and rows after rows after rows of chairs at places like Marineland out here in California when it was here. But this is a very small venue, just kind of crammed in amongst all the apartment buildings and everything else. But I still enjoyed it when we went out there.
Bill, do you know if they still have these same displays of the whales and all that?
I don't know. It's been a good 10 years since we were there the last time. So I don't know what the current situation is.
It's all been renovated, Randy.
Yeah, I would just think because these small tanks, there would be some kind of,
Yeah, it's a completely new aquarium now. It's
Okay.
a little bit bigger.
Mm.
This movie, by the way, is a Super 8 film. The next one we'll get to was more New York. That was more of a problem, but this one was fairly well exposed. The next one had some real challenges. I keep looking at this and figuring, how do you train these animals to do these things? Because I've got a dog sitting here on my lap right now that we cannot train her to do anything. I mean, if the safety of the world depended on us teaching this dog to sit on command, we'd all be doomed.
You should have gotten a cat, Bill. My cat speaks 5 different languages.
Really? Well, our cat spoke 12, but none of them that we understood.
Yeah, really.
I had to do a lot of editing on this one. The guy kept zooming in on flowers, and they were not focused flowers. So I left some of it, restarted some of his zooms. I should take that piece out. Sometimes they're a work in progress. If anybody knows what flower that is, please let us know. Likewise, that fountain, if anybody knows, has a particular name or where it is. I believe it's Central Park, but I'm not entirely sure.
Bill, was it Wisteria?
That could be, Tom.
There are some of those up at the Getty in the eating area outside.
Yeah, they're pretty. I mean, they when they did the what was that, the show with all the housewives, Listeria Lane, they had plastic stuff like that, so that could well be it.
I think that fountain might have been the Belvedere fountain area. I don't know.
No, I think it's you mean the Bethesda fountain?
Whatever the big one is in Central Park and the South Central part.
Yeah, that's a gigantic fountain, with the sculpture on top. I don't know. That was a really small one. I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, we grew up here too, and one of the best parts of Central Park was the old Central Park Children's Zoo
Yeah,
with
that's,
whale.
sorry, go ahead.
Oh, with they had the children's zoo had the very famous whale called Whaley. Then you can walk into his mouth, and at the back of his throat was an aquarium with fish.
I don't know why this decided to stop itself. 1 second. Something has gone wrong with that video and it stopped. Oh, there's more. Okay. I zoomed it up here. I have to figure out what's going on. That again, fashions of the time. Maybe they're having corn dogs.
It looks like even in 1973, people were well dressed going to the park.
Yes.
Mhm.
Imagine a lot of these people also, taking breaks at lunch hour, that sort of stuff. But yeah, the people look a whole lot different back then. Everybody's real thin too.
Yep. And no cell phones. Everybody's looking at each other.
Yeah. Yeah. Going for the hot dog. Now we're later in the year, back out at the beach. It's not quite as hospitable. There you go, Joey, under the boardwalk.
Yeah. The boardwalk is where we used to run when there was a sandstorm, and everybody would go under the boardwalk. And then later on, they closed the board. They closed under the boardwalks. They chained them up, put fencing, because it became a real den for drug use.
Yeah, I noticed when we were back there, seeing it all, fence screen, cyclone
Yeah.
fence.
Mm-hmm. Right.
We didn't go to Coney Island all that often for the beach. My family ended up preferring Reese Park and going out to the beach out there. But Coney Island was definitely a spot to go to when Steeplechase was there. I absolutely love Steeplechase. And then Astroland we went to a few times, but Steeplechase just seemed to be more of the Cotter family draw until it was gone. There you can see under the boardwalk before it was fenced in.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's where we used to. When I was a kid, I went into the ocean, and I came out at a different spot, and I got lost, and I went to a policeman, and they brought me back to my parents. I was crying and shivering, and they took me under the boardwalk to dry me off and calm me down.
Funny the things that stick with you, huh?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Out here at Santa Monica, there's always people in the ocean, no matter what time of year you go. But I was looking at this when I was working in the video, wondering, like who is the last person to go into it, the Atlantic for the season, and who's the first person to go for the next season? Because boy, that can get pretty cold.
Yeah.
When I first went to work for Disney, I went down to Disney World in the middle of summer, and I stuck my hand in the lake, and I was amazed how warm it was. Because living in New York, water is always cold. Whether it's a lake or the ocean or anything,
Yeah.
never heats up. And going down to Florida and then when go scuba diving and that, you didn't even need a wetsuit or anything. It just took some getting used to.
Those are the Luna Park houses in the back. They sit on the site of Luna Park,
Oh, yeah, that was another
which
famous
burned
place.
to the ground. Yeah.
my grandfather was a New York City fire department battalion chief, and when Luna Park burned, he was a lieutenant, and he got a commendation when he was there for the fire, and when the roller coaster burned down, it collapsed on him and his men, but he had gotten them all to safety. So he was in the hospital for about a week with burns, but he survived that and was part of history for him. So another New York shot. This roll was super, super, super overexposed. I really had to work on it to do it, but I thought people might see some of the old signage. Remember, does Macy's tell gimbals? The old saying? Gimbals, for those that don't know it, department store has been gone a long time. Carol just watched a special about the making of Fiddler on the Roof, and here it shows up. This was probably taken on a Saturday because it looks like there's all sorts of people going into the matinees. Back when it was the Pan Am building. To me, it will always be the Pan Am building.
Exactly. Yeah.
Randy, you worked as a flight attendant?
Yeah, for Delta, and Delta bought a lot of Pan Am assets, and
Yeah.
a lot of flight attendants came with those assets, and they have stories, let me tell you.
I bet. Now we're going to go out to the Statue of Liberty. Again, this whole reel was super overexposed, but I was able to dial it down a bit. So we're taking the trip out there, and out there is a U.S. Navy destroyer. Actually, it's a destroyer escort, and that's the USS John R. Pierce. And I was super, super thrilled. We're going to see it more close up. You can see details of it. That's the first U.S. Navy. There it is. First Navy ship I was ever on. Was
Wow.
World War II destroyer, and back in this period of time, it was used for reserve cruises. Take the reservists out, go out to sea for a weekend, come back. It's the weekend warriors. And one of our leaders in Boy Scouts was a reserve lieutenant commander in the reserves, and he was able to get us to go out on the Pierce. So when that showed up on the movie, I was just like, wow, again, the connections you have back to things.
Yeah.
So that convinced me at that point I wanted to go and join the Navy, and then the Navy said, "Oh, your eyes are real bad. You can't be a line officer." So I said, "Oh, don't think I want to be down in the engine room." So I ended up playing with submarines instead. We're going to be getting over to the island itself. And to see when you're zooming in on something with a telephoto lens, just how much the slightest movement of your hand, extrapolates out to a pretty good distance. Like I said, some of these are a work in progress. I'm going to have to take some of these less than desirable shots out, but I literally just finished playing with this yesterday.
One of the blessings of new still and video cameras is the image stabilization.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
This has been stabilized. You should have seen how bad it was before. But again, when you're zoomed in so bad, it can only do so much to to help you out. Excuse me. How many people have been up in the Statue of Liberty?
I have.
Yeah.
That was the first trip. My father, we used to have something called father and son weekends, and that was the first trip that we ever made.
We went all the way up to the top, and the windows at that point had last been cleaned the year the statue had been built. And
Yeah.
it was like going up to the top of the Washington Monument. You're trying to see out through it, but it was so much grime and everything around it that well, we're here. We also learned, don't do it on a hot day because the statue is not air.
Yeah, it was hot the day we went up, I remember.
Yeah, I've been up
Does anyone
there.
know how long the torch has been closed to visitors, or was it ever open?
It was open, and when we went there the very first time, it was somewhere about the time, about 64 or so, my dad took us up. And there was a little walkway that went over to the torch, and it had a little chain across it closed to visitors. And my brother, Jim, he decided to go over and duck under the sign and yell, "Hey, Dad!" My dad was just about had a heart attack. But it was closed somewhere, I think, in the 40s or so, because of the wind, and the damage to the arm. I think it's been all strengthened and everything now. But my brother was convinced that he could go out and get up on the arm. So just some views of New York traffic. I'm sure it's gotten a lot better. We're at the United Nations now. And I will admit, for all the times I, grew up in New York, all the times I've been in New York, I've never taken the tour of the United Nations building. I somehow, maybe when Carol and I get back there on another trip, I'll go do it, but never got inside the place.
It's really worthwhile, especially if you're into mid-century architecture and interior design.
Yeah, I've got plenty of pictures, other people took or souvenir slides they sold, and I've been by it. I mean, I've been outside it 200 times. It just never was there in a day that going in was a good thing to do. I do need to get there. It's on the bucket list. I just know traffic can be a real bear around there when some head of state is coming in to visit.
Oh yeah, it's horrible.
And all around there's no parking because all the diplomats just park anywhere they want and they don't worry about tickets or anything. I was not able to figure out, let's see, maybe I can see the number on it. It goes by real quick on the sub, but kind of fun to see that coming into port. And now we're going to take a Circle Line tour around the city. Again, if you get to New York and you have a chance, the Circle Line is a great thing to go to.
I wonder what it costs these days. It's been probably at least 30 years since I did it. I think it was like $5 when I did it.
Yeah.
Don't
Real
know.
bargain.
We did it a couple of years ago, and I don't remember it being outrageous.
Yeah.
There was also the Hudson River Day line, which we took a lot.
Yeah, they don't do that anymore.
No, no.
Back when there were all sorts of ships in New York, almost all of these piers, docks are gone now. One of the ferries heading out.
I always liked the look, Bill, of those old ferries. I think they're all replaced now with newer looking.
I believe that they're all changed. You're right.
Yeah.
Anybody want to buy a bridge? If you've been to New York, if you're going, walking across the Brooklyn Bridge is a real treat. Carol and I have done it twice now. We walked one day all the way from the upper ends of New York through Central Park down across the bridge and met friends for dinner in Brooklyn, and it's just a great view.
It really is. And, Brooklyn has undergone a renaissance. I mean, it started a long time ago, but lots of stuff to see over there too, as far as like restaurants and all that.
Yeah, we stayed in Bedford-Stuyvesant the last time, and when I was growing up, that was a place you didn't go to unless you owned a tank. And yes, we went to a nice little restaurant and had it's really changed, really improved quite a bit. The United Nations from the other side. So we're on the river side of the Island now. Well, there are, I guess, rivers on both sides. This is the East River, as opposed to the Hudson. There's a couple private marinas along the way. People do keep pleasure boats out there. And the George Washington Bridge. I always got a kick out of how they had the steel towers, and evidently it was supposed to be clad in stone like the other bridges in the area, but they just didn't have the money for it, so they left it this way with the towers exposed.
There's the little red lighthouse.
Yep, yep. He a famous book and everything, huh?
Yep.
Yeah, I remember
Isn't-
they have those Hudson River cruises. We go up to Bear Mountain.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah,
Grant's Tomb and
Yeah.
Riverside Church.
Isn't the cloisters right in that area?
Yeah, they
The
are.
bridge? Yeah.
Yeah, Carol and I went there, I think on our last trip to New York, and really had a wonderful time there. Fantastic museum.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, if you ever go there,
Once we found it.
Yes, once we found it, was where the subway let you off was a little bit of a hike. I'll stop this for 1 second. This building right here, if you're a what you call it, New York Telephone or AT&T long lines enthusiast, which I recently joined an AT&T group on Facebook. That's New York 7, and that's the building I worked in when I worked for AT&T. Built to
Wow.
its
Any idea what the ship is?
What the ship? No, that one I did not get a name off. I'm waiting for an upgrade to the scanner, which does 4K instead of 2K, and I'm hoping I can pull up some of those details then. We're going to see the Bremen comes up. The name of that shows up real well. Again, this was super overexposed, and it was a real. There's the Bremen.
Oh. Was that a new Bremen or? Yeah, it was a new one.
Yeah,
The
this is
single
the
cab.
later one with the name, right?
Yeah. Okay.
An art show. You look at it and you wonder how many of these paintings people bought are still hanging in living rooms, and then if anybody ever, achieves any success with it.
Yep, Washington's. I was just going to say that's Washington Square South.
Yeah. Yeah, we walked right through there on our epic journeys, walking through Manhattan. It was, again, if you have the day and have a time to do it, this just walking from Central Park to Brooklyn, you go through so many different little microcosms and little different ethnic neighborhoods and everything in New York. It's really great to see it from other than the subway or a taxi ride. We're almost done with New York, and we're gonna head home.
Hey, Delta.
Yay! Put that in there for you, huh? So let me go here. We're going to jump over to some New York, some Disneyland. And let's see. Oh, I'll just show you here a clip. Every now and then you get a movie and you think, oh, this is going to be really exciting. Here's Disneyland 1958, so unfortunately, you'll see in this one, sometimes they don't turn out the way that you expect. Really great footage, but the guy's camera was broken. So it would pull up the film, go well for a while, and then I do half a frame and get all over the place. I have no idea if anybody has some way to fix stuff like this, but it is beyond anything I can do. And it's just so frustrating. So I guess all I'm going to be able to do is save some still images out of it. But the guy went all over the place and had some really neat shots. It just didn't work out. The technology let him down. So
Everyone that viewed that footage went into a convulsion.
yeah, sorry about that. So back more, this one worked. This is early 70s Disneyland. Excuse me. Yeah, you know, all that flashing motion can trigger epileptic shocks. The Main Street Flower Market, I've mentioned other times how I was sorely disappointed these were all plastic. Plastic or silk or whatever, they were synthetic. But Disneyland had a whole mail order business, a whole catalog you could buy about buying, artificial flowers from Disneyland. Okay. So some of these reels are shorter than others. Let's see. Now we'll go to 38. Disneyland now in 1972. So much has changed. Excuse me. Sorry, get some water here. People mover are gone.
I think we all say it every time we see that. That's how Tomorrowland should still look.
Yep. Let me just go back here 1 second. You can tell how things change over the years. Come on, let's go back. Go back. Yeah, tomorrow we don't have Kodak picture spots. We now have the GAF photo trail. So that's when they went through different sponsors. They kept the same signs, the same vantage, but now they wanted you to encourage you to take your pictures with GAF. And we all should be imitating Henry Fonda when we say GAF, right?
And that film was so unstable.
Oh, I know. The only thing I think worse than GF was Ansco. That was really bad. So the Carousel of Progress is still here at this point in time, hasn't been moved out to Disney World yet. But this was the Tomorrowland that, was there when I went to Disneyland and worked there. So it's the one I would like to see back. There was just so much going on. You look at this one shot: submarines, monorails, skyways, rocket jets. That's what they called it, Tomorrowland, the land on the move. And we're going to go out for the Autopia. I'm just restoring a movie now that has the Midget Autopia, which is a totally different ride than this one. I hope to show that next week. That by this point in time, they put the cars on rails. And I can safely say, if you take those cars off the track and go driving around Fantasyland and Tomorrowland on the day when the park is closed, it's a real hoot.
Have you done it?
Oh, moi? Yes. Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of really neat. We took the car as they were doing some maintenance, and they said, yeah, have fun. So my buddy and I just fired them up, and we drove all around the park, up around the rivers and everything. And then we started wondering, I wonder how much gas these things have in there. So we better head back, because there's no way I wanted to push the car back from Bear Country. But we made it back. The things you can do when it's closed. You can never get away with that today, because it's open 7 days now. The swinging 70s, your kind of people entertaining on the Tomorrowland stage. And now we're going to take a drive. We're going to head out of Disneyland. People who live in the area might appreciate how empty the freeways are here. And we're going to head off. Some of the route numbers and everything have also changed. They've done stuff. We're going to head off to Las Vegas. I just grabbed some of these ancient signs. When you were driving in, the road was just full of billboards and all the wonderful things you're going to see. I remember Carol and I drove over one time. There's all these billboards for Charo, and I said, well, that's one show I can skip. That's happened to be the show my grandmother bought us tickets to that night when we were visiting her in Vegas.
Did you end up liking the show?
Yeah, it was okay. It was just, I think we dropped the average age of the crowd by about 40 years when we went in, but.
Yeah, I had Charo and her husband on a flight probably about 20 years ago, and she was charming, but he and I talked for like 2 hours, because he had just had hip replacement surgery and I had had it like a year before. So we we're going over our medical history.
You know, getting old when you're sitting down, you start what you call
Yeah.
it, combining you know, your medical ailments versus theirs. This guy was real quick with the camera, but the parking lot is now where California Adventure is. And the trams changed now. They've got doors on them, everything. You wonder everything for safety, you know. I mean, somehow we all survived being on these trams. Now everything's different, that, you know, everything's got to be buttoned down, nailed down, secured.
That's beautiful.
The film that I'm doing right now, the guy actually went out to Disneyland apparently on one of the Mondays and Tuesdays it was closed, because he's got all this long footage of this whole front area without anybody in it. And he captures a sign about Disneyland closed Mondays and Tuesdays. And then he goes back the next day and the place is just hopping. So I'm looking forward to finishing that one.
So I wonder if he went out knowing it was closed.
No, a lot of people just showed up the wrong day. We were out there one day doing an inventory of the front gate. We had to go and count all the postcards and pens and everything they sold in the gift shops. And the painters were working on the fence, and they left the gate open one day. And this family came walking in and walking down Main Street. And it was like, oh, whoa, whoa, can I help you? And I said, yeah, where is everybody? And I said, well, we're closed today. And you know, well, can we came all the way from, I forget where they came from, Omaha or something. We just want to ride one ride. Can you fire up the Pirates for us? I said, no, you're gonna have to leave. And we walking them down to the gate, and there was another family, a Japanese family, walking in because the gate was still open. And they professed not to know English, but we had a Japanese security guard, so he came over and escorted him out. At that point, the painters got a severe talking to about leaving the main gate open. But we were closed Mondays and Tuesdays. Knott's was closed Wednesdays and Thursdays. So if you did come in, the ticket booths, the toll booths and everything were closed. There was a sign, and then there was a little thing to take a brochure about, sorry, we're closed today, but Knott's is open, and a map over to Knott's. And then Mickey would ask you to come back on Wednesday when we're open again. They also gave out those flyers during the bicentennial when it was just so packed with everybody coming in to see America on Parade, that they would close the the turnstiles or the ticket booths at the parking lot and turn people away to Knott's and tell them to come back at night.
I never realized they did that.
Oh yeah, very friendly partnership between the two parks. Like I said, we literally gave out maps. Here's how to get to Knott's. They're open today. Lots of bell-bottom pants.
And those Mickey Mouse shirts, those famous Mickey Mouse shirts.
Yeah. You know, with those shirts, though, is really interesting. The merchandising people from Disneyland had no particular, you know, awareness that retro Mickey was coming back. And in the early 70s, a fellow published a book called Disneyana, and he put in all sorts of old Disney merchandise photos in that. And then Disney all of a sudden realized there was money to be made in the old stuff. So they started taking some of the old black and white cartoons, putting them out in theaters, that sort of thing. But trying to get Mickey merchandise, you know, the retro style stuff back into the park was a challenge for some of them. They just didn't think people would buy it, and of course they ate it up.
Yeah. Wow.
So more Disneyland 1973 now, another Super 8 film. Like the Super 8 can really hold up fairly well. I mean, this has been run through the stabilizer, but it comes out pretty good. I did play with doing some work on these things to res them up to 4K, 60 or 120 frames per second. And they come out looking really nice. They just take a tremendous amount of processing power and space to do it. So I've left these at 30 frames per second. The old parking lot. And off we go for a leisurely train ride around. coming into New Orleans Square. This is where I generally parked in this gate right here. I'd walk across the train tracks, wave to the guys working there, open the gate, and go walking into the park. So it was fun to see again. Back when the cabin was burning with the guy out in front with his arrow sticking at him. Nature's Wonderland. Great spot of the park. Stopping at the Tomorrowland station and heading back towards Main Street. Speaking of that, there's the GAF sign out on the photo place. And we're taking a ride down the street on the horse car. We go to hear the clip and the clopping as we go past. Up in the upper left there was a fare meter because these things were owned by Retlaw, the Disney-owned company, and they got 10 cents or an A coupon for anybody going through it. And at the end of the day, Retlaw got a special check for everybody that went down Main Street. And off we go. Keep your arms and legs inside the boat at all times. Who else besides me knows all the bad jokes on this?
I think only you, Bill.
What's that?
I think only you.
No, no. You know, keep your arms and hands inside the boat. The crocodile is always looking for a handout. My favorite, of course, is I'm going to point out some of the very beautiful flowers and vegetation that we have here in the jungle. There's one over there. There's another. Oh, there's two more. These guys invented dad jokes, right? Don't worry.
Bill, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Joey.
Were they allowed to ad lib the guides, or did they have to stick to the script?
Well, they have a script and they start ad-libbing. And I've mentioned in one other talk, Carol and I went down to Disney World back when they were still using tickets. And I had an ID card that I didn't need tickets. So I showed them, it basically was an ID card with a blue stripe on it saying you were a director level or above. And we showed them up at the ticket area, you know, the blue stripe. And the guy, oh, okay, come on in. And he went up to the guy on the boat to tell him, hey, you know, there's a blue stripe guy getting on your boat. The poor guy was panic struck, trying to remember what was the approved spiel and everything. We were sitting right next to him. So I finally leaned over and said, I'm on vacation. I'm on my day off. Enjoy yourself. You could just watch the tension go out of the guy. And he went back to his improvised thing. But this I got a real kick out of because I did this as Chip. Here's Chip riding around on the Mark Twain. When I did the characters, we love to do things with the kids where they say, hey, come with us. Okay. And we would, I got in trouble one time for writing pirates dressed as Chip. But, you know, I got a real kick seeing somebody else doing this that I had fun with. Train through nature's wonderland. The Columbia. Great sailing ship. They don't usually put the sails up on it these days for whatever reason. There's an entrance to Nature's Wonderland mine train. And we're on the train now. Seeing the backside of water. Bear Country. We saw a couple weeks ago the fascinating movie about how they made the bears and everything work with water valves. And here's Nature's Wonderland. This was a really great spot to go through the park. Again, I mentioned on Mondays and Tuesdays when it was closed, I'd walk through the old burro or mule trails that were out here. This is where Big
You know what
Thunder
they used in those mud pots to make that bubbling mud?
You know, I remember walking over there and thinking, I hope they don't turn it on to test it. It wasn't just water; it was some sort of something that was soupier, and I'm not sure what it was, but it was very, very bright colored, and it would stain all the ground around it. So I never got too close because I didn't want to come back to the office bright orange.
What's in the place of Natureland now, Bill?
Big Thunder Mountain Railway.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. One of the things that's only in this park, so many of the things like Pirates, they've built others in other parks, but Storybook Land is only out here in Disneyland. It's a very peaceful boat ride. Walt Disney was really into miniatures, so the studio craftsmen made all these things that were based on Disney films. You see the Snow White's cottage, there's Cinderella's castle up on the hill, patchwork quilt of cactus down below. And they've updated it, so now you have things like Ilsa's Village and stuff from Frozen and various odds and ends. There's a little coach there just to the right going up the hill, and you can hear the clock pealing as it's getting towards 12. But they had to do, special gardening here, bonsai plants and all that sort of thing, and little miniature trees that they found only grew in some certain area that they could put out here that wouldn't dwarf Geppetto's village here. We see this gal that's running for her car there. You probably don't see many skirts in Disneyland these days. One of these
Bill,
cars. Yeah, sorry, go
sorry.
ahead. Go ahead, Jerry.
Were those the cars you were talking about that
Yeah.
you ran? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, they do steer, and what you call it, for braking, you just take your foot off the gas and it automatically slows down. But those are the cars we went driving around. My friend also found out if you hit a trash can head on, the trash can will really fly. It will dent, and then you will be worried your supervisor is going to find out you did it. This is again the original boats and everything from the '64 World's Fair at this point in time. They've been updated since then, but off we go and into the small world. Submarines are now bright yellow. It's hard to look at it and think, my God, this film is 50 years old now. I mean, that's a long time.
I'm assuming these were Kodachrome, right?
Yes, yes, this was a Kodachrome film. This has all been color corrected in Pinnacle Studio.
Had the color shifted much?
Not much. I'd say about a 10-20% shift, maybe. All the dyes and this stuff. When you do it. Oh, I got a kick out of this one here, the old stage there too. They do shift, but they seem to shift uniformly, so it doesn't like go to all purple or something like Ansco Chrome or something does. So it's just a matter of bringing back some vividness to it more than anything else.
really like the old white color scheme of Small World, as opposed to
Yeah,
the current one.
yep. Yeah, I mean, they've really changed the color scheme in so many things. The castle today, I think, just looks hideous with what they've done. And John Hench that came up with these color schemes was like the world master of color as far as I was concerned. And why they have to go for quote more modern, eye-pleasing palettes, I don't get.
Well, because it's, they're trying to attract younger audiences.
I guess.
We went through that at Delta. They loved for years the ma'am and sir Southern hospitality, and all of a sudden they want us to all become Gen Xers or whatever. It's like,
Yeah.
at age 60, I'm not going to happen.
No. Skull Rock. That was sad when all this went out. Now we're going to go off in the Skyway, so let's all bounce our heads up and down as we're going out to the station. And we start settling down below the canal boats. Gal with a big feather in her hat. They were still selling those in 73. Monstro the Well is the entrance into Storybook Land for those that haven't been there. So you get swallowed by a whale. They've since made Monstro less scary because it was, quote, bothering little kids. Again, the things they do.
Well, they removed the Snow White ride from Walt Disney World because they were getting too many letters, they said, or they were still getting letters of people complaining that it was too scary. I guess they never saw the movie.
Yeah. When we had to make a special version of the movie, the non-witch version for my daughter. And so it was like Snow White, the real short version. But she loved the whole thing with Snow White. She just was scared to death of the witch. So all of a sudden, something would happen, and then something else would happen. In between, the witch was gone. So I had that on tape for years. She watched the non-witch version. This is interesting because there's a bunch of characters in this parade you don't see an awful lot. We have some of the musicians go by, but the king right here from Alice in Wonderland, I haven't seen him in the park in a long, long time. So he's just going out of sight there.
Bill, the first trip that my family took to Disneyland was in '56. And my mother was pregnant with my sister at the time. Of course, couldn't go on a lot of rides, but Long Beach. And I got scared shitless by the witch in that Snow White ride. And I wouldn't go on anything else, that was an indoor ride for the rest of the trip.
Isn't it amazing how those things stick with you?
Yeah, I'm sure there were witches in every single one of those things.
All right, we're gonna change. Sorry, go ahead, Joey.
I'm sorry, Bill. I was often told to, if I showed the Wizard of Oz, to show a version without the flying monkeys in them. Because everyone was terrified of them. And I just loved them. I thought that was the best part of the movie.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, it is interesting the things that one kid will see and think is the greatest thing, and some other kid would be terrified, scarred for life.
Yeah, I was interested in. There was a movie called. It was the. Shoot, I've gone blank. I'll talk about it later. Hang on.
Oh, we'll be sitting here waiting.
Sorry.
Oh, no problem. So we're back to New York now for the 64 fair. Florida. Evidently, these guys vacation for the winter at the Bronx Zoo. This is over at the Continental Circus area. Again, another thing that didn't last very long because you could see circuses all the time. Oh, we got a lot of shots of nuns in this one. She must have been part of the family. So this is the Pan American Highway Gardens, which was just a filler spot when another pavilion didn't get built. It became an Avis go-kart track for 65. This one, it's the only footage I've seen of the Meadow camera shop who had the exclusive rights to sell film at the fair. So Kodak made it, but because of monopoly laws, they couldn't sell it directly. So Meadow was next door to the Kodak Pavilion, and they also had stands all over the fairgrounds to sell film. You can tell it's sometime in summer, no jackets or people looking at their dress for the warmer weather. Let's make sure we get every inch of the Unisphere here before we go.
They got the helicopter. That's a great shot.
Yeah, heading for the Port Authority.
Looks like he crashed into South America, though. He never came out the other side.
And they had birds at a number of the pavilions. There were a couple at the New York State Pavilion, but these are over in one of the, I think that this might have been Ghana, one of those areas. Look how empty the roads are.
When were these taken again, Bill?
This is 64.
It must be kind of early on because the brass rails look pretty clean.
Yep, everything was early 64 because some of the things, I was hoping you got a better shot of the Belgian village. You didn't from up here, but like the pony ride thing didn't last very long at the Continental Circus. Online, I was mentioning that giant orange stain on the roof of the New York City Pavilion, something being spewed out by their air conditioners. It's an early invention of Legionnaire's disease or something comes to mind. And I have, I think, one more here and just need to go find. Let's see, that was 31. More flamingos, but they were not at Florida unless I've done something totally wrong. This should be, if all goes right, the yep, we're at the San Diego Zoo. So people have, if you again come out to California, the San Diego Zoo is a massive, massive facility that's really a great spot to spend some time. How many people have been to San Diego Zoo? Oh,
I have.
Yeah, I've been a couple times.
Yeah, okay, see a couple hands going up there. Yeah, it's really a great spot to go to.
I had a layover in San Diego when they had some visiting pandas there. So I went to see them, got the t-shirt and all. And about a year later, we went to China. And of course, every stop they wanted to take us to see their pandas. It's like, I've seen them.
And I think we saw them when they were at the LA Zoo. Yeah, this is this is the same family we saw that went to Coney Island. So you know, I'm watching all the Coney Island footage, and all of a sudden, you know, there's something else. And I go, that looks like the San Diego Zoo. Well, it was. You know, the reel was totally unlabeled, so I wasn't you know, wasn't expecting the San Diego Zoo to pop up.
Must have been some trip that they took.
Yeah, nothing in between shows. They just, you know, go from, I mean, I don't know if they're a New York family that were out visiting the zoo, or a California family visiting Coney Island, or maybe they came from Omaha and they were visiting both.
Yeah.
Did Delta give out tote bags like that over the years? Randy, I've seen them for so many other
Yeah.
events.
Yeah, they did.
Was it like a first class perk, or did they sell them? Or
When I started, it wasn't. Yeah, they were sold.
I still have a TWA and a Pan Am one up there. I keep thinking I gotta take it on a trip, but I don't want to damage them.
Yeah, every once in a while we get a passenger that had like an old TWA or Pan Am or Braniff, come on with one of those, and we ooh and ah over it. Next, I'd give them like free drinks or whatever because it was neat to see stuff like that.
Oh, I'll have to try that. Free drinks. Okay.
I'm not there anymore, so not going to work.
Well, maybe
Randy?
somebody else has soft heart too.
Randy, what is the most unusual thing you ever saw anyone bring aboard the plane?
Oh,
Carry on, I guess.
I'd have to think about it. Yeah.
Okay.
You never had anybody with their, like support ostrich or anything like that?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. That got to be such a scam.
I was going to England one time and I went into, I forget what airline I was on. I went into the club and it was one of our other Warner Brothers people going over there, and he was from the States, but he lived in Europe for years, and going over there right near Thanksgiving. So he had this giant stack of pies that he was bringing over there, apple pies, or I guess they were pumpkin pies, and he must have had 20 of them. And he asked if I would help, carry them on the plane. So we went on the plane, and each of us carrying 10 pumpkin pies, and we had to stash them up in the overhead things. And the flight attendants were like, gee, it'd be a real shame if one of those pies just happened to fall out as you went past the galley. And it's like, well, I can give you a piece of pie, sort of thing. So we had pumpkin pie in the plane, and they treated us very, very nicely. But when we got to customs and we come walking in with now, I think he had 20 to start with. Now we had 19 and a half pumpkin pies. They just wanted to, he was really worried they were going to start inspecting inside the pies. So we got him in. But he was bringing it back because he wanted to give everybody a traditional Thanksgiving dinner. So,
you were talking about service animals. What I remember, so I was a seeing eye dog, obviously legitimate. The man was sitting in first class in the first row. I think it was a 727, and the dog's name was Ben. And this dog was so friendly. And of course, the man had told me his story. I'm like in tears because he had gone blind. He got like spinal meningitis, survived, but the high fever had, rendered him blind. And his wife left him. And so he had Ben, was like his, closest companion now. So he said, would you watch Ben while I go into the bathroom? So I did. Well, I didn't know Ben liked ice chips. So I turn around and Ben is in the ice supply eating the ice chips out of the beverage cart. I just kind of cleaned off the top layer because that was the only ice I had, and continued on my way. But I will always remember that Ben was like the nicest dog.
he was just addicted to ice, though, huh?
Yeah, when the guy came out, I told him, said Ben was eating ice. Oh yeah, he loves ice chips.
Well, we all have our vices.
Yeah.
Just reading the chats here. Ken, you never made it to Toontown when you were out here?
No, I was shocked to see all this. I was like, how in the world did I miss an entire land or subland, I guess it is. Even more surprising, I didn't know about the canal boats, and those miniatures look really cool.
Oh my God, Ken, we gotta come on, get on out here. We gotta go.
I know it's a missing cultural gap. What's going on?
I don't.
That as a kid, that was my favorite ride, was because of the miniatures, was Storybook Land, because of all, Toad Hall and all those wonderful buildings that they built that looked so realistic right from the cartoons and, existed in miniature.
Yeah, I mean, you see the pictures of on some of the shows where they're building the park, and the guys are just towering over them, and they're positioning them and getting them just right. But they really did quite a job, and some of them light up at night and stuff, so that the roofs come off so they can change the light bulbs and that sort of thing. It's really a neat area.
Yeah. I remember too, when they first opened it, Monstro wasn't the entrance point. I think it was just a grotto or something, if I remember correctly. And then they built Monstro a year or two later. And we were at the park and I was going along and they had a construction fence up, but there was a section of it that was pulled aside because they had been bringing some stuff in and out. And I looked inside and here was a miniature of Monstro that they were using, you know, maquette, so to speak, that they were using to build the one from there and the plaster in. And oh man, did I want that thing? But it was like, how can I get that? I wonder if there's somebody I can talk to when they're done with it. Can I have that? But didn't happen.
Oh, that's really cool.
All the models of pavilions at the various World's Fairs
Yeah.
that I'm sure just got trashed.
Well, luckily in like the 64 fair, a lot of the ones that were on the model out there, they broke up the model and what was his name? Mike Pender, who worked at the 64 World's Fair. He was in charge of the States area. He took an awful lot of them home, particularly when they would take a pavilion and change the design of it. So like the design of the travel and transportation pavilion changed 180 degrees. Same with Wisconsin. They would take the old models off, and then Mike would say, "I'll take it," and he took it home. And he has since donated a number of them to the Queen's Museum. Well, he's gone now, but his son Mike, they donated a number of them to the Queen's Museum, and some of them have come up for sale on eBay auctions. So if you look for the name John Pender, he sells a lot of his dad's stuff, and again, they were just throwing away. I've got, is it right here? Where did it go? Oh, I don't know where it is. I got my Avenue of Commerce sign, again, taking down all the road signs or destroying the fair. Mr. Pender took all sorts of stuff home. Now, Brock may remember over at WED, remember all the models that they had on the shelves in the back, near the back of the warehouse? I mean, they would build the models and they would just put them out there and they weren't particularly taken care of. They'd be dusty and they'd have plastic sheets that birds would have pecked through in that. But they would have things that were built and also not built. And you went out there and there were like the models for the Western River expedition were still there when I started. And you just looked at it, oh man, they should have built this thing. It would have been wonderful. And here's a contemporary resort hotel this tall by that big, and over here's something else. It was just all scattered on, like if you go into Lowe's Hardware and they got all the wood stacked up in the back, that was just stacked with models and dust, and it was really amazing to see what was out there in the boneyard, so to speak.
Now, when you started, was the Western River ride actually up where you could walk through it like you were one of the boats?
No,
when I was first started there, they had that up in the back of the the old main WED building there, what was WED at the time,
right?
And you could walk through it, and it was essentially Pirates of the Caribbean put in a Western theme, so to speak. But it was a neat ride, and they had it all the blinking a lot. I mean, lighting and everything else going, and the whole thing was set up, and then they decided not to build it, and it got shelved.
Yeah, I started in '76, and by that point it had been taken down, but it was still sitting there, and like I said, all the wires hanging out to light it up and everything. But I've seen pictures of it when they did the walkthrough. What they would do for people that haven't seen it, they would build it at basically up high enough to be at eye level. So you were seeing it theoretically where you'd be seeing it as you went through it on a boat. And they did the same thing for Pirates, figuring out sight lines and all the rest of it. But they were really neat things. They had the Epcot model later years, and the same sort of thing. You'd go into the model room and they just be picking up a pavilion and putting it over here. And I don't think maybe how does it look over here? Well, that conflicts with the line from over. Okay, all right, this is where it will be. So. Yeah. Today everything's computerized, but back then it was great fun.
Yeah.
One of the Disney books I have that it might be cover Epcot exclusively has a picture of that model, and they're guys in stocking feet kind of walking around moving stuff.
Yeah, no, it was fun to go watch, and you'd walk in at some point and say, "What happened to that pavilion? Oh, the money fell through. It's gone." To be an empty spot on the map. So, or they'd bring people in for tours, and if there was an empty spot, they'd have a sign for, say, DuPont or something, your pavilion here, and they would use it as a sales pitch to try to convince you why you'd want to sponsor something. So it was a huge model. How big would you say that was, Brock?
Oh, it was massive. I don't know, probably about 30 feet square, maybe.
That would be
It
about
was, it
my
was,
guess.
yeah, it was pretty big.
This is the Epcot model?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I know in that picture that I have in that book, it's not a really small scale model. It's big.
No. Actually, it may have been longer than it was wide because it may have been like 30 by 40 because you had World Showcase and then you had the World Showcase and then you had Future World in the beginning front of it. So it was more of a longer park than it was a wide park. And so I think it was huge. It was very big.
Yeah, it's fun stuff. You wonder how much of those parts have been saved. I know when we did the movie Iron Man 2, we came up with the idea of the theme park and the 64 World's Fair. They built it and they've still got that model in storage. But that was another massive, pretty massive model. Now they have the money and they have the wherewithal and the foresight to save stuff, but I'm sure the Epcot model is just chopped up and I doubt that's around anywhere.
Yeah, I don't recall what they did with it when they took it apart. Oh, also I remembered the movie I was going to talk about when we were talking about movies and things being different or different versions of it. One of my favorite Christmas movies is the musical Scrooge that was with Albert Finney. I don't know if any of you have ever seen it, but I really like that movie and the way it tells the story. But the first time I ever saw it, I never saw it in the theater. I didn't even know it was out. I saw it on CBS, used to run it every year just before Christmas for about 5 or 6 years, I think, maybe longer. And I had no idea that there was an entire sequence that they took out of the movie because they were afraid that it would scare children in the audiences. But when he gets, the Christmas future pushes him into the grave and he falls down, he ends up down in hell and gets the chains and the whole thing. That was, you just see him falling into the hole, and the next thing he was waking up in bed. And so I just thought that was the movie. They kind of explained it away in such a fashion that it was like, okay, that was all there was to it. And then I bought a copy of the thing on videotape at the time and watched it. And it was like, there's this whole 10-minute sequence that was I've never seen before. And they just because they were afraid it was going to scare audiences. It was too scary for family audiences. And so they took it out. And it really wasn't all that scary, but I guess for a little kid it could be.
It must have been like getting a Christmas present, no pun intended, when all of a sudden it showed up there.
Yeah.
Well, I saw that at Radio City Music Hall when it opened, and all the school kids were there. I mean, there were buses from every school in New York and New Jersey, and everyone loved that scene. I mean, you could hear all the kids gasping because it was really, really quite a thrill to see something like that.
Yeah.
How much things have changed when they it's been a while ago, they re-released a director's cut of The Exorcist.
Yeah.
And they included some scenes that have been cut out. And what's called the Spider Walk, where where Reagan is the little girl, and she's walking down the stairs like on all fours but backwards, or whatever. It's real weird. But young audiences laughed at the whole movie. They thought it was just ridiculous, and special effects. There was nothing that would have even caused them to blink an eye.
Yeah.
Things change. When you talk about how they cut movies up and you have one version in your mind, I had gone to see Disney's movie The Happiest Millionaire when it was at the Radio City Music Hall. Joey just made me think of that. So I really liked it. I thought it was a great movie. And then years later, we decided, part of our film club, we'd show it at the Disneyland. So we showed it and it was like, what the hell, where'd the movie go? Because they chopped out like 40 minutes of it. And, then it became this quest to try to find a uncut copy of The Happiest Millionaire. And they had, our friend Stacia, she was just at the wedding last week. They had found a reel of it where had never made it into the movie, even into the Radio City version, where Fred McMurray and Greer Garson are singing a song together. And she finally found it, and we showed it at the Disney Studio Theater. And it was great to see. the restored version, and then they managed to lose the soundtrack to that piece of it. So when they put out the movie on video, they had to get a Fred McMurray and a Greer Garson sound-alike to be talking as they go into the thing. It's like we knew this thing was there because we had seen it, but it was two different elements. They had the film on one reel, the video, I mean, the image on one reel, the sound on another, and we had to play them back at the same time in the Disney theater, which was equipped to do that. And then somebody lost the sound, so they had to go and do that.
Yeah.
No,
Well, was that scene in the original theatrical release or?
no, no.
Yeah, that happens to a lot of musicals. I'm a big fan of the Judy Garland version of A Star Is Born, and there's a whole book written about the restoration. And actually, and it's been restored more than once, but they were able to locate the missing scenes because it had been chopped up because it was too long, and they wanted to get more showings in during a day. And somebody had, they think it was a projectionist, had set up his own camera, movie camera, and or no, I'm sorry, his own tape recorder, and recorded not the visuals but the soundtrack. So they were able to play that through to determine what was missing, and eventually they found some of the scenes, probably about 80 to 90% of them. But then they filled in with stills. They had the soundtrack, from this guy who had recorded it. So you see Judy Garland and Jane Mason talking, but it's a black and white still picture. So it's pretty fascinating the way they were able to restore it.
Yeah, I've seen a couple movies where they've had to do that. When Carol worked in the foreign department at Disney, where they would dub all the movies into the foreign languages, and they decided the movie Pete's Dragon ran too long, so her boss got the job of cutting it down for international release to make it shorter. So they took this big song, Candle in the Water, where in the US version, she's up in the lighthouse and she's singing the song Candle in the Water, which I love because I was there the day they filmed that on the stage. But then they made that the title song to Pete's Dragon. So Disney Channel comes up with the thing years later, Pete's Dragon, and they put on the short version, which is, all sorts of musical numbers cut, gone, and everything. And it's a musical without the music in it, sort of thing. So all sorts of people wrote and complained to Disney that, what you do to Pete's Dragon, and a big apology. Next month we'll run the right version, and next month they ran the wrong version again. So more letters. So they finally, got the right version. But there were a couple times when I was working, there was a fellow named Scott McQueen, who was the Disney film archivist. And we'd go off on quests to go find stuff that you knew had been shot. Where did it go? And Disney, for the most part, if it wasn't producing revenue, they got rid of it. So we've got, like, for the making of The Happiest Millionaire, they actually filmed half of a TV show on the making of it with all the Fred McMurrays and Tommy Steeles and everything talking about it, and they're on the back lot. And again, we have tons and tons and tons of stills that the publicity department saved, but nobody can find any of the footage. And it would be just so great to find it, but who knows if it's anywhere. If it's anywhere, it's in a can labeled something else. Yeah. So that stuff's out there, but it's just, where did it go?
Bill, do you know if that version of The Happiest Millionaire with that scene reinstated, is it available?
Yeah. It's on I think, matter of fact, I don't know which version is on Disney Plus. I'd have to go look, but it was put out on DVD, and it's a great song because the way that the movie ended for years was John Davidson throws Leslie Ann Warren over his shoulder, and they're going, I'm going to show you, I'm a man. We're off to Detroit, and they sing a big song, Detroit, and they drive off into a matte painting, and it ends. Well, the extra scene, they go back to the house. And the house is really quiet and it's empty. And, Fred McMurray saying, I can't believe how quiet it is and everything. And then Greer Garson sings a song, It Won't Be Long Until Christmas, that the kids will all be home. And it was a beautiful, beautiful number. If you can't find it, I've got a copy of it. But again, you can understand why they cut these things for time. But it was just a beautiful, beautiful song. So
it changed the whole meaning of the movie.
Yeah. Yeah, it was,
and it explained what happened to the boys.
Yeah, the boys would disappear, never seen again.
Yeah. And then, have you heard anything from Scott McQueen? I mean, he quit and never heard from again.
I haven't heard from him in years. The last I heard, he had done some freelance work at Universal and then may have gotten out of the business.
Yeah, he was really into horror movies.
Oh, was he?
Yeah,
He
and
was a great guy. He was like a kid with a
Yeah.
candy store. We'd pull stuff out of the vault and would come in this big old rusted up can and open it up and he'd thread it up. He had a movie all in his office and oh wow, this is so alternate take of this and that, and he'd be cataloging everything. He was
yeah.
he,
Do you remember
dude,
he? I think his first film he restored was Pollyanna.
might have been. We were
It was just beautiful. It showed the before and after, and remember he had a presentation called Unseen Treasures,
yeah.
and he brought that here to Salt Lake, and we showed it up at the Sundance Film Festival,
Hey,
Egyptian Theater. It was a really nice guy.
Tom, when you say restored, did they include any deleted scenes, or was it just?
In Pollyanna, you mean?
Yeah, Pollyanna.
No,
No, I don't think so.
no, but it was what
But it
they
was just, sorry.
No, sorry. What Disney did, unfortunately, a number of times is they would cut their original negatives for different things. So, like Davy Crockett, the first three Davy Crockett shows, they cut them up together to make Davy Crockett King of the Wild Frontier. Well, now they want to restore it for putting it out on DVD. The TV versions, and they've cut up the original negatives. So Scott had to go back literally frame by frame at times, trying to figure out which negative to use for this. This was B-roll film of that. How do we put it all together? So when you see Davy Crockett, on the DVD today, it looks great. They did the same thing with Scarecrow of Romney Marsh. That was a bitch and a half to restore because they had taken 3 one-hour TV shows and condensed it into a 90-minute, theatrical, and they had cut the original negative to do it. So it was amazing that they were able to put it back together the way they did.
Yeah, I saw after they had restored The Sound of Music 15 years ago, maybe. It was on one of the anniversaries, the release of the film. When I saw at the Aero Theater, they had a little documentary afterwards that showed, it was mostly the opening number. You see all that lush greenery and all. The negative that they've been using for years, I mean, that all stuff looked brown. And they restored it, back to the original look, and it was amazing what they had done.
Yeah, Ken mentioned that Disney Plus has a 2-hour, 49-minute version, The Happiest Millionaire. That's probably the Greer Garson version in there. And again, you think how long that is, 2 hours and 49 minutes for a movie back in 1967 or so. That was an epic, and that's why they chopped the thing down the way they did.
Yeah,
Well,
remember they called them roadshow movies.
Yeah.
Road shows, right? And we all, as kids, I think most of us here, had the patience, and I'm not coming up with the right word, but to sit through a movie like that. Kids now can't do it.
Well, they
No.
did have intermissions. And that was-
Exactly, they
yeah.
did. They had intermissions, but I mean, even now, it's we sat through movies like Dr. Zhivago, The Sound of Music. Just like you say, all those roadshow films that were close to 3 hours, if not over 3 hours, and I enjoyed every minute of it. Now kids
How the West was won. That was a good one. Remember? Yeah.
Right.
Although Avatar 2 is up there.
Is it long?
Yeah, it's I think it's over
Yeah,
3
I haven't
hours.
seen it.
Yeah.
Is it good? I've heard various things about it.
Yeah. Although we watched it at home, which is good, but it really does look like it would be better like on an IMAX screen. So I think the story is okay, but the visualizations are insanely good. But they'd be better, I think, on a full screen.
You can what's your background picture?
That's from the one of the openings of the New York State Pavilion in Flushing Meadows on the anniversary.
Oh, okay.
50th anniversary.
Oh yeah, I see the striped wall now. Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. You can see the posts.
Well, I think there was a guy, if I remember right, I think the filmmaker's name was Abel Gance, evidently made a 5.5 hour movie, and I forget what it was, but Birth of a Nation or something, but I can't imagine anything going
Napoleon.
on 5.5 hours. What's
Yeah,
that?
it's Napoleon.
Napoleon. Okay, yeah,
And they would show it with a full symphony orchestra playing the score.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's the one where I think they used 3 panels or something. He also did some optical thing that,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, the triptych, I think it was called.
that's it. Yeah, yeah. But I mean, 5.5 hours. My God, that's a lot of popcorn.
That's lunch and dinner.
Yeah, but no, the road shows, boy. I mean, that's
Yeah, another one was Around the World in 80 Days, right? Wasn't
Yeah,
that
yeah.
yeah.
Well, one of my favorites was It's a Mad, Mad, Mad,
I was
Mad
just gonna
World.
say that, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
they showed that at the Cinerama
That's what I
Dome
meant. Yeah.
years ago. And we went to see, I guess, Carolyn, remember we went to Blackham's? We saw How the West Was Won at the Cinerama Dome.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. I mean, again, when you see it on that giant screen and you know, James Stewart comes riding out and you read how they had to hand do all the costumes, you know, by hand, because the screen was so big, machine stitching would show up on the screen, and you know, it's just phenomenal experience to see that.
I seem to remember that it started off on the center screen, right? And then they opened the the right and the left hand curtains slid back, and then you were looking at this huge panorama. Remember?
I remember that for This Is Cinerama. I don't remember how.
Is that what it was? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It started. You know, Lowell Thomas comes out, and ladies and gentlemen, this is Cinerama, and it's like, what? Well,
It was
sort of
cool.
like Disney's done that with some of the movies, you know, like American Adventure or whatever. You know, you start
I
small, go big.
Oh yeah.
I vaguely remember seeing it either at the Pantages or some other theater years before when I was still very young. I'm not sure what age I was, but I loved the movie at that time. So, but I think it might have been in Cinerama there. If not, it was certainly widescreen.
Yeah, I remember with Boy Scouts, we went out to there was a Cinerama Dome out in Comac, Long Island, and we went and saw the Wonderful World of the Brothers Grimm, which was if you haven't seen that, it's a tremendous movie. But that was again just mind-boggling how big. And you know, I have stuff like I mean, Mad Mad World on DVD, and I have How the West Was Won or Blu-ray or whatever. You know, again, you look at your 60-inch TV, it's not anywhere like being on, you know, in a Cinerama movie.
That's
Yeah,
an
laser
argument for
disc.
that's an argument for buying a 95-inch television.
Yeah, yeah,
Hey, Bill, on the DVD version of How the West Was Won, I know when Turner Classics shows it now, it's letterbox, but in a really weird way. I don't know if anybody here has seen it on Turner. I don't know how to describe it. The picture on the sides is much bigger than in the middle. It's kind of like the top, you know, is arched, the bottom is arched.
yeah.
You get that feeling of the curved screen, kind of. I read they did that because any other way that they would try to fit it, even in a letterbox format, they would have to chop off some of the bottoms or sides or something.
Oh, probably distort the picture.
Or
Well,
that.
I think on the Blu-ray it's in both versions. I think they have that, which they call it Smile Vision or something, because the thing, and then they also have it then just done, you know, as one giant letterbox sort of thing. And then they digitally took out the seams in there, so it's really nicely done. Blu-rays of How the West Is Won is really fantastic.
I'll look for that.
So I don't understand why you all don't have projector TVs, because that's in our basement. We have this little, makeshift theater set up, and it's a 14-foot screen. It's just amazing.
Don't have basements in California.
Yeah.
That's you don't.
Bill, when you saw
Your
Brothers
bedroom.
Grimm,
Yeah.
was it in Smell-O-Vision? Do you remember that?
Oh, I remember when that came out. You had a card you would scratch, the number would come up on the screen, and you scratch the number 7 and sniff it.
No. I don't. Maybe that was one form of it. I never saw. My aunt and uncle they saw Brothers Grimm. It was up at the Orpheum in San Francisco, which in the Bay Area at the time was really, I think, the only theater equipped to show through Cinerama. like I remember my uncle described, they walked into like an Oriental castle or something, and like you could smell incense. I guess the projection or somebody in the theater would like push a button and this odor was released.
Randy, they do that in the California Adventure Ride.
That's right.
You know,
You're right. Yeah,
you smell orange groves and stuff
right.
as you, yeah.
Oh, I did it in what you call it, the Energy Pavilion down, in Epcot. You get the smell of sulfur and stuff like that. So yeah, Disney has smellizers. But no, there was a form of movie I remember going to as a kid with smell-o-vision, and you got a card, and it had little they encapsulated stuff like you get sample perfumes and magazines.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And the card had about 20 squares on it, and you'd be in a movie, and they would be like going to the forest, and a number 12 would pop up, and you'd scratch it and sniff it, and you get pine, and then they go someplace else, and the devil comes up, number 7, scratch it, raw eggs, rotten eggs. So
I've never heard of that.
Oh yeah, it was one of those gimmicks that lasted for about one movie. Somebody
movie. Like sense around earthquake and sense around. Remember that?
Oh yeah.
And they had the bass speakers, and you kind of feel the theater rumbling.
Well, we went to see the theatrical version of Battlestar Galactica. They did that, was one of the last sense around things they put out, and I thought it was going to bring the roof of the theater down. Although the other night I was in here watching an episode of Picard, and Carol came and asked me what the hell I was watching, because they were in the next room thinking the house was coming down. It's a laser battle, the Romulans, So yeah, I guess the speaker in my sound bar here is better than I thought. Well, I hope
I put a link in the chat, Bill. I found a 3-minute ad for Holly West was one that shows the smile boxed format you guys were talking about. I had never heard of that before. But it looks pretty. Pardon?
Is that an official term, smile box?
Apparently, well, I don't know. It's actually in the title of this trailer.
Makes
well,
sense.
hang on here 1 second. Let's see. Share screen. Zoom meeting. Share screen.
And it actually looks pretty good. I mean, it's all in focus and not distorted or anything, except for the weird outline.
So let's see what this looks like.
Yeah, that's it.
Already acclaimed and applauded the world over. How the West was won, Metro Goldwyn Mayer and Cinerama have brought together the biggest and most distinguished all-star cast in entertainment history, characterizing the men and women who conquered the wilderness, finding a new life in this immense human saga of the American West. James Stewart is the mountain man. Henry Fonda is the plainsman. Adventurers such as these first explored the land.
I better stop, or I'll end up.
Yeah, we'll get sucked in.
No, when I post this on Facebook, I'll get a copyright claim from or something.
Yeah, they're gonna have to show the entire movie next week.
It's it's funny. I remember it was called Smile-O-Vision. That's scary.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know that was an official term. Bill, that Astroland at Coney Island, was it any relation to Astro World?
No,
Houston?
no, it's just a small theme park. I mean, back in New York at the time, we had all sorts of little amusement parks. They weren't theme parks; they were just amusement parks. And that was just a bigger than average one out there. I mean, like we had one right where near where my grandparents lived on Avenue S in Brooklyn. I'll have to go look it up. I remember the name once, but it was 2 blocks away, and it was great. Walk down the street, the little whip rides and a little roller coaster and everything. But Astroland was like on those things on steroids. It was a big park, and then they got into big battles, with the Trump family and everything else about modernizing New York and taking stuff out. It's not the same as it is. Any how much is left there today? Anybody been back that area? What's left, Joey?
In Astroland,
Yeah.
there's not much. Well, Astroland is still there, but a lot of the attractions are all gone. The observation tower's gone. They took that down a number of years ago. And there are rides for the kids. They still have some of the updated rides. They're more or less not the old rides anymore. So they updated everything, but very, very little is left. They even took the rocket down from Greg's Cafe, that big rocket, that's laying on its side. that was from another attraction back in the 50s or 60s, I guess. And they used it as an advertising gimmick on top of Greg's on top of his roof. But yeah, nothing from the old days is really left there anymore. There's a rumor that underneath the Wonder Wheel are the steeplechase horses. That's where they got stored. And I don't think they're there anymore, but I did see photos of them when they were supposedly stored down there for a little while.
Well, the steeplechase I know ended up going to Pirates World in Florida. And I don't know if the entire ride went, but they still had the steeplechase down there for a number of years. So my guess is they got most of the horses or whatever they needed.
Yeah. The story goes that when steeplechase was still standing, Fred Trump took a whole bunch of kids down there and gave them rocks and gave a little cash prize to anybody that can break the windows because he wanted all that gone. And I think he made a deal and he owned the land. So yeah, the old steeplechase building with the big, the big George C. Tillieu face. That's very, very famous, popular icon. That was all gone after that. It got torn down.
Yeah, when I was cleaning out some of my parents' stuff, I had an uncle who evidently was a friend of the Tillieu family. He had a season pass each year to steeplechase, and I've got at least one of those sitting in a box. And it was a great park. Went to.
Yeah.
You really enjoyed it, and then so sad when they took it down. I think the last time we were in Coney Island, Carol, we were there with Neil. And he was fascinated. There was a thing there where they had a thing. I think you shoot paintballs, shoot the freak, and it was a guy that just a thing, and paintball. I mean, it was paint everywhere. You would pay $1 or $5 or something to paintball some poor guy sitting there.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't remember that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's lots of. They do have the Coney Island Museum. So if you go down there now, you can go into this what used to be the Coney Island Hotel. And inside is a museum, and they have a lot of the artifacts from Luna Park and Dreamland and Coney Island.
Well, I'll have to give that a try in one of these times.
Yeah.
So yeah, Coney Island. I remember going out there. We took the train out, and they had just finished ripping a lot of the trolleys out of Brooklyn, and they were in a building that had a giant carousel in it, and they were storing a bunch of these trolley cars in it, where they were getting ready to ship them to something like Rio de Janeiro or something. And my uncle knew the guy that was the caretaker for it, and it was like, wow, kid in a candy store. We could go in and ring the bells, and of course nothing worked or anything. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll start up the merry-go-round for you. It was just, funny. Yeah, I was probably like 6 years old or something. It was fun stuff, but I remember trolley car tracks were all over Brooklyn.
Oh yeah, they were all over. You could still see some of them. Most of them are all gone because not only for years they were covered up, and then sometimes when it really got hot, the tar would melt and they would be exposed. But they tore a lot of them out now. But I remember as a kid, I mean, you could see them going right into a building,
Yeah.
We could see the trolley car station where they would, the tracks would actually go into a lot, basically. And they would turn the trolley car around so that it could go back and do the route the other way. So a lot of that stuff is still, McDonald Avenue had a lot of the trolley stations. So
yeah, what a shame this stuff's all gone.
Yeah, and Coney Island, if nobody knows, Coney is the Dutch word for rabbit. And when the Dutch first found that little inlet, the whole island was covered with rabbits and hares. So they called it Coney Island, the island of rabbits.
To me, it's the promised land of Nathan's hot dogs.
Yeah. Yeah, oh yeah, loved it. There's an excellent documentary you can watch on Nathan Handwerker, the man who started the entire Nathan's franchise, and it's a great documentary, and it shows everybody that used to work there and his family. And what a character Nathan Handwerker was, though.
Well, about when my dad worked in the shipping business in New York City, and every now and then, about every 2, 3 months, he would take me and my brother Jim into Manhattan with them to quote help at work, which was, staple stuff where we found every rubber stamp in the office and had fun with it. I think it was more called give Mrs. Cotter a day off from the insanity. But he would drive us into Manhattan, and then on the way back, we would drive into Coney Island and stop at Nathan's Hot Dogs, and it was
Yeah.
Wow.
just these childhood memories you have of stuff. And
Are the Nathan's hot dogs that you see at some of the, I've seen them at a couple airports. I think Orlando had a stand. I'm sure they're related to that company, but are they as good as the ones at Coney Island?
yeah,
No, I would say not.
oh,
I would say not. No.
Yeah.
I think he got bought out. Nathan Handwerker got bought out by another famous company. I'm not sure who owns them now, whether it's the Hardee's franchise. Someone else owns the name now, and the family. I don't think the family has too much to do with it anymore. But no, the only true Nathan hot dog is at Nathan's in Coney Island on Surf Avenue.
Oh, wow.
but it's still they had a couple others. They had a huge one out in Oceanside, New York, giant pavilion, and you would be eating there, and they'd invite every local school band or garage band or whatever to come in and play for free entertainment. And now that's all gone. It turned into a giant shopping center, and it's just a fast food type stand out there. But the ones you find like at airports and stuff, Nathan hot dog stands are not as good as Nathan's. The thing about Nathan's was really good because they had so many other things, and my mother was just thrilled. She would always get their chow mein sandwich.
Yes, that was very famous.
Yeah. So they'd have chow mein on a hamburger bun, and
Yeah.
then it would have the thing about Nathan's was crazy though. Back when I was going there, you'd go to one line to get your hot dogs,
Yes.
another line to get your French fries, which they made killer French fries. They still do. Another one to get your soda, and another one, so by the time you finally got everything, you stood on 5 damn different lines. So my mother would say, no hamburgers, we're all getting hot dogs, so I'm not standing in that line.
Your hot dog was cold by the time you ate it.
Yeah, but then
Bill, do you like Costco hot dogs? You ever had them?
They're okay. They're not anywhere near the same as a Nathan's.
Okay, yeah, I'm just trying to do a comparison.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
they're not as good. They're not as good as when they had the Polish sausage choice and a hot dog. The Polish sausages were really good, and they took that one away. No, they only have the hot dogs, but no Polish sausage anymore.
Carol would always get the Polish sausage, but they went away with the pandemic.
Yeah, well, before that, actually, they started phasing. Yeah, somebody decided instead of having 2 choices that more people wanted the hot dogs than that, so that one won out, even though it might have been like 55 to 45 or something like that. But to me, the Polish sausage was a much more flavorful hot dog. The other one was just a hot dog, big deal.
Yeah.
What also went away in the pandemic was that machine where you ground the onions onto your hot dog.
Yes, yeah, that's gone.
I just discovered the other day you can ask them for onions that when you order your hot dog, they give you a little plastic cup of them.
Yeah. And that's only started up recently. I think they had enough complaints from people saying, hey, what happened? Why can't I get onions for it? Yeah. It's like their pizza. They still only make pepperoni pizza now. They don't have the cheese. They don't have the, the whole, the sausage and pepperoni and everything else pizza. They just make the one type ever since COVID came out.
Well, the things our kids are going to miss, huh?
Yeah. Well, there's are you guys familiar with a restaurant in at least Southern California people, the Hat in Pasadena, famous for their pastrami? Well, they've got some franchise businesses out around. They've got one down in Temecula, and we went there the other night because we've been to the one in Pasadena many times. Love their stuff there, and it's more than pastrami. They have a bunch of other stuff too, but that's what they were famous for. And we went to this one, and I told my wife afterwards, I said, don't ever take me there again. That was the worst pastrami sandwich I've ever had. And I thought they've really gone downhill. Well, I was in the Glendale, Burbank area the other day, and I decided on the way home, it was real bad traffic, so I'm going to get off, have dinner, and then go home when the traffic gets better. So I was in Pasadena. I went, I'm going to go to the Hat and just see if there's a difference. And what a difference. I mean, it was like piled high with meat in the middle, where the one we went to had like two light slices of pastrami in the middle of two pieces of bread that fell apart while you were eating it. It was
Yeah.
just amazing. So I don't know what they're doing for quality control, but it's not the same as the original Hat, at least the one out here in Temecula.
Well, yeah, that's really funny because last Thursday when we were driving to the wedding for the rehearsal, we stopped in Pasadena and went to the Hat. So
Oh, okay.
yeah. So
Yeah.
hey Kenneth, when you come back out to see what you call it, the canal boats, we'll have to take you to the Hat.
Ah, okay.
It's good.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. And we were looking at there's also one out in Simi Valley, which was right near where I worked for a couple of years, and yeah, it's a great spot. Sorry that the one you had near you wasn't so good.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised. I just was like, this isn't what I remember it being like. And so I decided, well, let's check it out and see if the whole thing has just gone downhill or something. And no, at the original place, it was this nice big piled high pastrami sandwich and very flavorful and everything, where the other one was just this bland, hardly any meat and fall apart bread.
Well, I didn't realize Pasadena was the first one. You're saying that's where it started?
That's what my understanding was. The original Hat was in Pasadena, just like if you remember the old Bob's Big Boy chain,
Yeah.
which is still around a little bit, but their original store was in Glendale,
Yeah,
right on Glendale Boulevard, and
Yeah.
which isn't there anymore either.
Yeah, well, yeah, things change now. We were talking about barbecue a couple weeks ago. The place in Burbank that just went out of business. Did you
Oh,
say?
Pecos Bills.
Yeah, you like that, right?
Yeah, it was really good back in the day. I hadn't been there for years. No, it was really very tasty, and they just piled the meat on, and it was a real nice smoky flavor, and it was really quite good. And but I think it, again, with things with time, and it wasn't, it was still in the family, I understand, but I think the original guy had passed away, and his kids took over, and they might have made some cost-cutting things. I'm not sure.
Well, so the last time we went, I thought it was terrible. So, are you going to the next WID lunch in June?
Yeah. Are you going to make it this time?
Yeah, I'm going to try to make it. So we'll have to sit there and we'll have to order the same thing and see what we think about the food.
Okay.
Great. Well, hope folks enjoyed going back to the ancient days of New York and what you call bell-bottom pants and all the rest of it. So I think next week I may be doing some still pictures. I have a whole bunch of movies that I'm working on, but some of them take absolutely forever to crunch through the computer. I did one that I was working on of Disneyland. I mentioned the guy shows up there and the place is closed. It took the computer 8 hours to do the color correction and dust removal. And then I was trying to edit it this morning, but I just couldn't get it in time for today. So I may have that for next week. But it is still fascinating to see the stuff that shows up in movie that I'm working on. You have the Matterhorn and the guys are climbing on it, but standing over by this side of the chalet type structure where everybody's getting on this the rock, the sleds to go through it, is a guy standing there and he's yodeling, and again, the stuff they've taken out of the park over the years. You don't have the mountain climbers, they don't pay a Swiss yodeler. And I just seen an obituary for the guy about a week or so ago that the guy died that had been a yodeler at Disneyland for like 40 years until he retired and they didn't replace him. So it's just, again, all the little bits and pieces of things you pass up. Like when I did the movie about the dinosaurs that were at the shopping center parking lot, and you see the motorized bird flying around, you get so much more out of a movie, when you see the still images. It's one thing. So I just get a kick myself, and I'm glad to see folks indulge me in sharing some of these trips back in time.
Hey, Bill, I think it's interesting. This chat started out with corn dogs and ended with hot dogs.
Well, it's getting towards lunchtime out here in California.
Yeah, talking about
You can always
hats,
go to Pink's-
I'm
you can go
tempted
to
to jump
Pink's-
in my car and drive up to Pasadena.
Hey, Bill, next week I'm driving to Hauppauge, New York for a Trek Con out on Long Island.
Oh,
It
yeah.
looks like the path up there puts me by Coney Island. Is it worth stopping? You know, I don't have a lot of time, but is there anything there that's sort of worth stopping? I can't go to Luna Park or anything, and I wouldn't have enough time for that, but
I'd go out and have a hot dog at Nathan's if you pass.
Yeah, go have a hot dog, go to the museum, go to the Coney Island Museum.
Go to the aquarium.
Yeah, and the aquarium.
Yeah. No, I mean, and Coney Island's just kind of neat to see. I mean, if you go out there, the steeplechase, I mean, not the steeplechase, the parachute jump is still there from the '39 World's Fair. So it's not an operating ride, but it is kind of neat to walk up to it and, think, wow, my God, this artifact's, been around a long time. And, it's if you're there at night, it's lit up really, really nice. Just like the New York State Pavilion with a new LED lighting system they put in. They put in the same thing at the parachute jump a number of years ago. So
is that inside Luna Park or is that outside and accessible without buying a ticket?
Oh no, it's just outside. Just walk down the boardwalk, and there's the sign there about steeplechase was here, so you can at least say you were on hallowed grounds.
Sounds good.
Right.
Well, great. Well, look forward to seeing you. And hey, Brock, by the way, we were in your neighborhood last week for the wedding, and
Right.
a little too tied up, or I would have come by and seen you. But what's the airfield near there? March, is it?
Well, March is on the 215, but right
Right.
by where we live is the French Valley Airport, a little private plane airport.
Oh
That's
my
just off of
God.
Winchester.
We drove right by there. This place that we're on was called Monteleone
Yeah.
Meadows, and we would drive right by there. And I had the groom in the car, and I was joking with him. I said, "Hey, look, there's an airport there. I got my pilot's license. If you have any second thoughts, I can get you out of the country." And
Yeah,
then
you were probably a quarter of a mile away from our house at that
wow.
point.
Oh, yeah. We stayed at the Hampton Inn, right off the 215, I guess it is, right near Old Town.
Yeah, you were near Old Town Murrieta, right? Not
Right.
Old Town Temecula. Yeah,
No,
Murrieta.
Old
Yeah,
Town Temecula.
okay. That was further down, but I mean, if you went by the French Valley Airport, it's this little private airport, mostly green fields right now around it. And there's, that's that. You were very, very close to us.
And
The planes fly over me all the time.
road construction on it.
Oh yeah, because they're doing that big development on one side. That's been since we've lived here. They've been 2 days after we arrived, they started scouring the hillsides or the rolling hills there and completely rechanged how the ground looked. Putting in all these terraces, and now they're building homes there. But it's taken them 2 years to get this far. And there's tons of road work they're doing.
Well, when we went by March, the traffic got to be terrible because they were flying C5s, I guess the Galaxy, or what?
Oh, okay.
And they were coming in doing touch and goes, but one of them would come off and peel to the left, another would peel to the right, and then a tanker would go off in between them, and another one. So the whole freeway is just slowing down. Everybody, and I got to get to the hotel. I got to make this dinner. But
Yeah.
wow, the planes were neat to watch. I think the rest.
Yeah, I thought C5s though did thump and goes, don't they?
Yeah.
Not touch and goes.
Well, at one point you're looking right down the runway and it's coming right at you.
Yeah.
It's really impressive. But we went to a restaurant in Temecula, I think it was called 1909, something like that. Really, really great restaurant.
The name is familiar, but I haven't been to that one yet.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to come back your way because I kept saying to my daughter, oh my God, there's a airplane museum at March Airfield. Oh, there's a train museum in Paris. And she was like, made it plain to me, if you go to any of those and you show up late for the wedding, you were a dead man. So, we'll have to come back and visit that area.
Yeah. Well, we want to get together with you. And like I say, we've had some issues with some health stuff, and I'm just getting over a bronchial thing that's now moved into my head. But when we're all well and better, have you out, and we've got an extra room you can stay, because with all the things you're talking about you want to go see, it's more than a one-day trip.
Yeah. No, we enjoyed it.
I got it.
Really good.
No, I'm
time.
sorry, Bill. I just want to wish all the moms and a happy Mother's Day tomorrow.
Yes. Happy Mother's Day.
And Greg, I like your Ceratosaurus in the back.
That's actually a Jonah Studios T-Rex maquette.
Oh, it's beautiful.
But Bill, question, you mentioned shopping center dinosaur display where the bird moved. Do you mean the 1966 to 68 Dino Land tour that do you mean the Archaeopteryx was motorized?
Yeah, I might have that handy here. 1 second here.
Ooh,
Let's see, World's Fair, Dino Land.
I didn't know that. I'm working with a ton of pictures of that tour, but of course they're all stills.
Yeah, no, I've got it here. Let's see if I can find out which video it was. Let's see. Sorry, I've got so many of these things. I'm just looking through them, trying to find where it was.
We saw
While
them
you're
in
doing
Ramsey.
that, oh, yeah.
Yeah, we
While
did-
you're doing that, I ran across a newspaper clipping that mentions that in the planning stages for Dino Land, Jonas said that there would be a summer neck and a winter neck for the Brontosaurus, that they would have to change them out. Does anybody have evidence that that's the way it was actually finished? I know that currently and on the tour it had a fiberglass neck, but in films and stills from Dino Land at the fair, you can tell it's obviously mobile. There are wrinkles in it. But is
Right.
anyone aware of a summer-winter change out that occurred?
No, I'm not.
No,
Why would they have to do that?
No,
I would assume they'd have to do it because the mechanisms over winter would be,
Yeah.
vulnerable and fragile, but
Well, it
Unless they
also
put
might have
it-
been the soft
Yeah.
heat versus cold stiffness of the material, that it wouldn't
Mhm.
bend right and could tear or break or whatever.
Yeah, because the wind on the Grand Central Parkway in the winter must have been incredible. Unless they knitted him a gigantic scarf. I'm thinking
that's happened
maybe.
to a bunch of them afterwards. A bunch of the Jonas T-Rexes have scarves in the winter. Museums do that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Just seeing if where did I put that video? Just 1 second. See if I do a search here, if it shows up. Okay. Yeah, I found it. Let me just see which is the best version of this here.
Ooh.
Oh, wrong button. 1 second. Okay. Yes, here it is. I just have to. Okay. All right. I just need to share the screen 1 second. I don't know where this shopping center is. Let's see. But we start off with this young kid walking around, learning to walk, and there's the dinosaurs. I don't know what neck he's got on. Probably the only neck he ever had. They took the motorized mechanisms out of them to make them easier to transport on the tour and took a lot of weight out of them.
I've never found that piece. I don't know what happened to that one we're looking at now. It's not even in the paperwork when they
Yeah.
were dispersing the dinosaurs.
Here, watch the bird now.
Uh,
How
Yeah, there it
cool
is.
is that?
Yeah, he got stolen during the 65 season of the fair, and then he was replaced. So, I don't know where that other one went. The one that was at the entrance to the pavilion that the kids were climbing on. It might be in somebody's garden. Who knows?
I talked to Louis Paul Jonas's grandson last year, and he said they still have the mold for that.
That's neat.
I think I have photos of a piece similar to that. Flushing Town Hall did a World's Fair, 64 World's Fair retrospective, probably in the 90s. And this huge brontosaurus was in there, big brontosaurus sculpture. So that might be the one.
Ooh, I'd love to see that.
Yeah, I'll see if I can find the photos and I'll send them to you.
I did find out what happened to the Archaeopteryx. It was to be donated to Glen Rose along with the T-Rex and the Brontosaurus and some hatchlings, but they didn't have permanent buildings yet in 1970 at Glen Rose. So they turned them down at the last minute. The Archaeopteryx went into storage at an ARCO, Atlantic Richfield facility in Kentucky, and was stolen sometime before 1974, when the Geology Museum at the University of Wisconsin wrote to ARCO wanting to know if they had any dinosaurs left they could have. And at that point, they checked and found out it was stolen. They did still have a hatchling, which they sent to the Geology Museum, and it's on display now if you're ever in Madison.
That's neat.
Great.
Yeah, I've got still pictures of a whole bunch of these, tours where they went around. But again, when you see the, there's, again, I haven't edited this, so the static. When you see the motion of it, it's just a real kick. Like when I see the Chrysler Pavilion and the air cleaner on the top is turning and the fan is going, the movies just to me add a whole new dimension. We're gonna have to add, a smell-o-vision component and have the smell of fresh Belgian waffles. That's sort of. So, well,
Carol
great.
gonna make the cards.
What's that?
Carol gonna make the cards for us.
No,
Yes.
we're just gonna have tanks of it and mail it out.
Oh, okay.
You might get a kick. Yeah, I don't know if you've seen it, Randy. One of the souvenirs they sold at Expo 67 was canned Expo Air.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah. And it shows up every now and then on eBay and stuff like that. And then people I want to open it and smell Montreal from 1967, but once you do, it's gone. But I thought that was a tremendous idea. Somebody came up with metal, empty tin cans, put a label on them, and people buying souvenirs of empty air. It's like whoever was the genius that came up with pet rocks, right?
Yeah.
Really.
It's one of my favorite scenes in How the West Is Won when Carl Malden is telling his wife or telling somebody else about his farm where he grows rocks.
Coney Island. Which turns out to be
Just made me
on
think.
the way. The hot
Well,
dog.
we're gonna go to lunch. We're probably not gonna go to the hat, but look forward to seeing you folks
I'm not sure how
next
much time I'm
week.
going to have, but I could
See
stop
you
and stretch my legs there at least and get a Nathan's hot dog.
We got Ken hooked.
Sorry, my wife just found the map I printed out of Coney Island and now getting all jealous or something.
We'll say hi.
Yeah, Ken, the other thing you should do if you go down there, just take a little sand from the beach and put it in a little jar.
And I can bring the jar of sand home for Susan and she'll be happy. Is that what you're telling me?
Oh, she would love it. She would love
Yeah,
it.
I've got.
Yeah, Joey says you'll love the jar of sand I'm going to bring back from Coney Island.
Okay.
I've
This is okay.
I've got Mount St. Helens ash in a baggie. We
Oh,
were flying
wow.
in and out of Portland when that happened, and you go out the rear stairs of the 727. We'd all be out there picking up ash off the tarmac and bringing it home to our friends.
Yeah.
And if anyone's interested, I am selling cans of air from my neighborhood. So I'm selling them for like $5 a can.
Would anybody like water from my creek? Which is
Hey,
still-
Joey, do you have any air from the inside of the United States Pavilion from the fair? We might go for that.
Yeah, that would be something, right?
Hey, just give him a few minutes and a laser printer. He'll print up whatever you want. Great. Well, we'll see you folks for something next week. Take care, and I hope everybody's enjoying the oncoming summer weather. It was, I think 2 weeks ago was in the 90s. Last week at the wedding, I think it was 61 or something, and today's supposed to be 90 here again today. So weird ass weather.
Really, 90?
Yeah.
We've got the May gray going on here, so it's cooler.
Supposed to be 90, I think 89 today, 90 tomorrow, something like that. So
Yeah, the only thing that's good about it is at least it's cooling down at night. It's still going into the 50s at night, so it makes it very nice. But yeah, we're hot again.
yeah. Great. Maybe I'll go have a hot dog. See you guys later.
Thank you very much, Bill.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Bye.
congratulations to you
Take
and
care.
Carol on Margot's wedding. It looked beautiful.
Yes.
That was cool that you both walked her down the aisle. Carrie and I did that for our daughter Erica. It was
I
a
just
breaking
felt,
tradition.
I felt that I needed to do that. You know, they make the whole big thing about dad walks the daughter down and dad does the father-daughter dance. Carol has been at least as involved with everything as so I suggested it to my daughter, not knowing how she would take the break-in tradition. And they said, yeah, great. So I don't know if you've seen the picture online of me dancing with Margot, trying not to lose it. You know,
Yeah.
that was a tough one, but the wedding.
I requested that picture.
Yes, that's right. I thought it was you. But the wedding was it was perfect from A to Z in every way. We really had a great time.
That's great.
Great. Talk to you later.
Okay, thanks
Okay.
again,
Take
Bill.
care, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.